All right, as people are starting to log in here, I'm going to share my screen so we can get started on today's webinar. And for those of you, I know that there's a lot of administrators on this webinar, and so I may not have met all of you before. My name is Claire Bondi. I'm the Director of Lay Ecclesial Ministry and Ongoing Formation, and that's sort of why I'm kicking off this webinar, and I will turn it over to Ayman Shoshani in just a bit, who will be actually leading the webinar today. So, today we're going to talk about shared calendars. I know in our department in pastoral services, we do share our calendars, and it makes our life a whole lot easier when I need to know if I can chat with Joe Bazina. I can look on his calendar and see if he's available for a chat or if he's in a meeting or lots of good things that I'm sure Ayman will share lots more with you. So let's just start with prayer. This is our prayer, our diocesan prayer that started off as our year of prayer and is now, we've now adopted for our diocese. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Prayer for a mission-oriented church. Send forth your Spirit, O Lord, and fill the hearts of your people with an ardent desire to follow Jesus, to be his missionary disciples. Fill us with joy and a desire to know your word. May we boldly proclaim the good news to others, for when we help others to know that God loves them, they will know true happiness. Fill us with a deep desire for the Eucharist. May we recognize Jesus in the proclamation of the scriptures and in the breaking of the bread. For when we are united with Jesus, joy is constantly born anew. Fill us with a true love of neighbor. May we seek opportunities for reconciliation and with big hearts serve those in need. For in serving them, we know we are serving your Son. With the help of the Holy Spirit, may we commit ourselves to loving you and doing your will. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And just quickly, I will share with you that the next Simple Solutions webinar, hang on, somebody doesn't have the link, so I'll shoot that out in a minute. But our next webinar will be on May 24th, and Erica will be talking about data excellence in DDMS. I know she's touched on this briefly in some of the other webinars, but she will go through it more in detail, and you can register at dol.ca/simple solutions. There's a picture on there. We've made some changes on the website. So there's a picture on there that will take you to a link to Zoom to register. And my apologies, because you didn't get reminders for this one. And that was my fault in not setting that up correctly, but I have made that change for the next one. So at this point, I'm going to turn you over to Ayman, who will take over from here. And I will stop my video. Ayman, they are all yours.
Thanks, Claire. Welcome, everyone. So let me first start by sharing my screen. So today we will talk about calendars. A lot of information you might already know. You might already be using your calendars, but we'll talk about like a standard way of how to share your calendars, the difference between shared calendars and resource or room calendars, how you can do scheduling, and some tools that will help you to manage event and meeting, and so on. So simply a calendar, and any calendar can become a shared calendar if you share it with others. So even your personal calendar, you might decide to share your personal calendar with your teammates, for example. Or if you like to keep your personal calendar for yourself and create another shared calendar for other team members, for example, if you're working on specific things, you can have multiple calendars shared with different people. depending on the work you do, you can have a calendar for so-and-so project shared with a group one of people, and then you have a different calendar shared with a different group of people. So today we'll see just simply how we can add another calendar or share your own calendar with your teammates. And we'll see how you can view that calendar, how we can add events, manage those, and so on. So let me jump right into the calendar. So you are all familiar with the Office 365 home screen. You might be using an installed version of Outlook or an online version of Outlook. I will go through the online version of Outlook and the calendar mostly, but those of you who have the installed version of Outlook, that applies to the installed version of Outlook as well. So I'm just going to move on to my calendar. There's my calendar. Let's say I wanted to create a shared calendar with my another teammate, for example. What I can do, I can create a blank calendar. So to add a calendar under my calendar screen, can simply click on Add Calendar, and then I can say create a blank calendar. So when I create a blank calendar, I can give it a name. So I can call it, let's say, my shared calendar. And I can choose a color for it, for example, that I would like to use for that calendar. And then I decide under which group of calendars I would like it to show up. Now, once I click on Save, it will go ahead and create the calendar for me. So I've created that calendar already, and it is under my calendars, and it is called my shared calendar. Now, let me move this. So there's my calendar. When you hover over a calendar, any of those calendars, you will see the ellipses or the 3 dots. Whenever you see that, that means there are more options for you when you click on that. So if I click on that shared calendar that I just newly created, if I click on that, I have an option to set sharing and permissions for that. So let's say I wanted to share that calendar with another person from my office. Yep, I can share it with anyone across the diocese. And also I can share a calendar with people outside the Diocese of London. The limitation would be when you share your calendar with someone within the Diocese of London, you can give them edit permission, meaning that they can add events to that calendar as well. But if you share your calendar with someone outside the Diocese of London, you can only give them view-only permission. So let's see how I can share my calendar, that's my shared calendar. I click on sharing and permissions, and then here I can simply start typing the name of the person, or if that person is outside the Diocese of London, then you need to type in the full email address. So for example, I've shared this calendar with my other accounts. I have my personal account and I have just the administrator account for that purpose. So I've given that account a full permission, which means both accounts can have access to the calendar and both of us can update or add events to that calendar. But these are the permission levels you can give. So you can set it to can view when I'm busy only, which means they will see your busy free times, but there will be no details about what the meeting is or any details about that meeting. The second level is they can view only the title and the location of the event. And then the third level is can view all details. Any notes you add or anything, they can view all the details, but they cannot make any changes to them. And the last or the full permission is that you give them edit permission. And most likely you might need to do that, especially if you're working with teammates and you are sharing a calendar and you want everyone within that team to be able to add events to that calendar and so on. So here, once I select that and I share it, then the other person will get an email invite from me that I'm sharing the calendar. So I'm going to switch to the other account to show you how it looks like. So here, that account received an email from me. If I open that, it just simply says, I'd like to share my calendar with you, and with a button to add the calendar to that person's calendar. So when they add that calendar to their Outlook calendar, it'll show up under people's calendars by default. They can move it to my calendar and move it up and down here, but by default, it'll show up under people's calendars. Now here, both that account and my other account can view this over here. So here, this account, we can both add events to that account. And let's say how I can just simply add an event and see how that's going to look like. So let's say I want to add an event for, let's say May 3rd. So on May 3rd, I want to add an event in that shared calendar. And let's see how that is going to look. So I just double click on that day. I'm going to give it my test meeting. And here in that calendar dropdown, this by default goes into my personal calendar. But if I want this event to go into my shared calendar, then I simply select that calendar. And as you can see, as you select different calendars, of course, you give each calendar different color. The whole event scheduling will change color for you, so you know under which calendar you're adding that event. So let's say I'm adding this event between 10 and 11. I simply add that event and save it. That event now is in my calendar. And if I switch to the other account now and go to next month, I will see that event in that calendar as well. And the other person, because I gave that person full edit permissions to my calendar, to the shared calendar, they can go in and update that calendar. They can edit it, they can delete it. They have full control over that calendar. And if they delete that event, switch on my calendar, I will see in a moment that event will disappear from my calendar. So that's how the shared calendar works. It can be shared with multiple people. You can have multiple calendars created depending on different teams, and each calendar can be shared with different people. So we've looked at how that meeting is added. Simply add a meeting, it goes into that calendar, and it shows up in both calendars. And of course, sometimes you might decide if you have, let's say, a parish calendar or a family of parish calendar, you can publish that calendar onto your website as well. So we won't go into the details how you do that, but you can publish your family of parish calendar, for example, and you can publish it onto your website. But whenever you do share your calendar or publish a calendar to your website, please be careful and mindful of what information you are sharing. You don't want to share too much information, especially when you're publishing your calendar on a website. If you give too much detail, not only your parishioners can access that detail, anyone out there on the web can access those details. So if you, for example, publish an event, a meeting between father and a couple parishioners, and then after a few days, father gets an email pretending to be from someone he's meeting, then you know that's a little too much information, and that's how hackers and spammers get information from your website. So please be careful what information you publish on your website. You can publish, especially if you're publishing your parish or the family of parishes calendar, make sure that it's a public information that goes into that calendar before you publish it to the public. But when you are sharing your calendar, of course, always be mindful of how much information you want to share with others, whether within the diocese or outside the Diocese of London. Now, there's a difference between a shared calendar, or like individual calendars that you add within your Outlook, and a resource or a room calendar. So at times, you might need to, if you have multiple rooms and meeting halls at your family of parishes, you might decide to create calendars for those rooms and allow people to book those rooms, for example, for a meeting, for events, and so on. And they could be for resources. So if you have a, let's say, a projector that you lend out or the staff use, you can set up a calendar for that projector and let your staff book that projector. So let's see how a room calendar or a resource calendar will work. I will share with you a live example. One of the families of parishes in Sarnia, they're using the room calendars. They have a pretty big number of rooms available. So they needed calendars to be able to book those rooms and to manage those calendars. So what I'm going to do, first we'll start with the difference between the resource or a room calendar. So a room calendar is different than a regular calendar in the settings of a calendar. So I'm going to look at a specific, let's say, I'm going to look at one room calendar and what I mean by those settings. So, and of course, this type of calendar, a resource or a room calendar, it's not something you can create on your own. You can contact us and we can set up a calendar for you. And once that is set up, it will be available for you and you can manage it. So a room calendar differs than a regular calendar in certain settings. So in a booking settings, I can allow repeated meetings. I can allow scheduling only during work hours. I can set some limitation how far to the future people can book events, and I can set some limitation on the duration of an event, and so on. So that's one of the differences. Also, in a room calendar, in a room or resource calendar, I can set up delegates. When I set up a delegate, I can either set it up as without any delegation, which means that any booking people are requesting, they will be automatically accepted or declined depending on the availability. If the room is available, then the request will be automatically accepted, given that it falls within your restrictions. Or I can decide that I want all booking go to a specific person. I can assign one person to manage that calendar so that any invites people do, they will go right to that person, and that person has to review the request before it goes into that calendar. So you have both options when we set up a room calendar. So once the room calendar is set up and ready to go, now it's ready for you to add those calendars in your Outlook. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to set up, of course, once you have too many calendars, then your calendar will become so cluttered, and it'll be complicated for you to go through so many calendars. What you can do is you can organize your calendars using the groups of calendars. So as you can see, I have my calendars, I have people's calendars, and I have groups calendars. So I can create as many groups here as I need. So let's say I'm going to use that Sarnia family calendars example. So let's say I want to create another group of calendars. First, I will start with a group. So I move to one of the groups here to the ellipses. I will click on that for more options, and I have an option to create a new group calendar. So let me create that. And here I will type in, let's say, Sarnia rooms, just simple. And then once I have that group available, now I can start adding room calendars to that group, to that calendar group. So to do that, I'm going to click on Add Calendar in my calendar, and I will be adding calendars from the directory because they already exist in the directory, and they are available for everyone across the diocese. So I will click on Add from Directory, and I will need to select under which account, of course. Some of you might have multiple access to multiple accounts, your own account and the family or parish account. So you need to select under which account you're adding those calendars. So I'm going to select mine, and then I will start searching for those room calendars. So let's say I'm looking for Sarnia St. Benedict rooms. And for Sarnia St. Benedict, I have 3 rooms available. So I'm going to start adding all 3 of them under that group that I just created. So let me start by the first one. I select that. And then here I will decide under which group I would like to add this room. So I'm going to select Sarnia rooms, and I will add that. Once it's added, I will go ahead and add the second one. Same thing, I will select under that same group. I will add that. And I have the last one. So I will just simply look up that room. And I will add that room under that same group. Once that is done, I'm done with adding those rooms. Now I will go back to my calendar here. And as you can see here, I have Sarnia rooms. If I expand that, you will see I have multiple rooms here, multiple calendars. And of course, for each calendar, I can give a different color for that calendar. So by looking at the calendar here, I can easily see which events are in under which room. Now, the colors of the calendars, they are your personal preference. When I change the room calendar, let's say the St. Benedict conference room, to a yellow color, that doesn't mean it will show up in yellow for everyone viewing this calendar or for everyone who has access to this calendar. This is a personal preference. I can change the colors as I need, but they are just for you. The other person if anyone else has access to those calendars and added to their Outlook, they can choose totally different color coding for those calendars. So, and it's only for personal preferences. So they're not in general, they don't, the color is not assigned to that room calendar for everyone. It's only for you. And you can simply hide or display those calendars by clicking on that select checkbox there. I can remove my calendar and look at just one calendar at a time, or I can look at all three calendars at the same time. Now, depending on how you would like to see those calendars, you can look at it as a month view. And in the month view, you have the only option is the overlaying view, meaning you can't see them in a split view because the screen is limited and you can only see 1 month structure of the calendar and with different color coding. But if I look at it as a week, then I can see those calendars in a split view, or I can view them like this in a overlaying view. And you can change the view as you like, whether from a day view to a work week view, and so on. And you can simply show or hide those calendars by selecting them here, and you can look at just simply one calendar or the other. So that is for room calendars. Now, I'm going to move on to how you can add events in different calendars. So here, well, depending on how many calendars or how many room calendars you have, you might set up different calendar groups. So you might have one for, let's say, St. Benedict, one for Sacred Heart, one for another parish, and so on. So you can create different groups so you can organize your calendars. If you want to look at just for, let's say, just for St. Benedict rooms, I can just look at under that group. Or if I want to look at on another group, I can do that. Or if you prefer, you can have them all under the same group as well. So let's look at how the scheduling works when you do schedule an event in a room calendar or your personal calendar as well. So if you have multiple rooms and you are the delegate, let's say, it would be better if you use like a master calendar, whether it's the family of parish calendar, or you can create a master calendar where all events go into that calendar. So you can look at one calendar and view all the events, but the rooms can be added as a location when you schedule those events. So when you look at a room calendar, you can see what is happening within that room. But if you want to see an overview of all events across all rooms, you can look at a master calendar where all your events are there. So let's see, for example, I wanted to schedule an event and see how I can add that room into my calendar or into that event. So let's say I'm going to schedule an event on, let's say, Wednesday, May the 3rd. So I double click on that. Now, first, you will give a name for your event. And you can add invitees to that event. So let's say Father is celebrating Mass on specific time in the hall. You can schedule that. You can add Father here as an attendee, and then you can add the room as a location. So you can, once the event is created, that event will go into Father's calendar as well as the room calendar. Also, it can go into the master calendar as well. So you can do all that in one event when you create it in the screen. So you can add attendees. If I want to look up a room, if I just simply search up, let's say Sarnia, I'm going to use that example. As you can see here, when I look it up here, I can see the available rooms depending on the time slot I selected, and I can see the capacity of each room available for me. So when I select the room, depending on how many people will be attending that meeting or that event, I can select the whichever room suits me. Once I do that, then that room will be scheduled for that time slot. And depending on if you have a delegates assigned, that delegate will have to review my invite and accept it before it goes into the calendar, or they can simply decline it and come back to me and say, well, you have to choose another event time, and so on. So, but if you are the delegate and you have the full control over that, you can go ahead and create those events right into those calendars in one screen, as you can see in the screen. You can add fathers, let's say whoever in the meeting, you can add those attendees, you can select in which room or location the meeting will happen, and it will go into all these calendars at the same time. In addition to the master calendar, let's say I'm using my shared calendar for that, it will go into that calendar as well. Now, when you're doing, when you're scheduling an event, whether it's in one of the rooms, whether it's your personal meeting, you can take advantage of the scheduling assistant within the Outlook. So when you select a specific time, first of all, you will add the time and add your attendee. And then once you have decided on the time and your attendees, you can use the scheduling assistant. If I click on that, this will give me, let me move this over. This will give you an overview of available times for all attendees or rooms that you added to that event. And you can select the best time that suits everyone using the scheduling event, the scheduling assistant. And you can scroll back and forth to multiple days, and you can see whichever time suits everyone. You can decide on the perfect time that works for everyone, and you can schedule that event. And of course, given that all those attendees keeping their calendars up to date with events. So, and that's where I'm encouraging everyone to keep your calendar up to date so you can take advantage of the scheduling assistant. Now, let's say I'm scheduling an event, and I would like to actually give the attendees multiple options for dates. So rather than me sending out emails asking everyone which day works for you or not, what I can do, I can, within the event screen, I can send out a scheduling poll with multiple dates to all attendees and let them decide which day works best for them. So let's say, let me hide those room calendars, for example. for now. And let's say I wanted to schedule a meeting on the 1st of May, and the week of May 1st. And let's say I have a Wednesday, May the 3rd, and Friday, May the 5th open. So let's say I wanted to schedule a meeting on one of those 2 days. And what I will do, I will just simply open up that, double click on one of the days here. I bring that up, and I'm going to call it a meeting. So a meeting here. So let's say I'm going to send it, I can select any one, of course, but I will use my second account so you can see how the other person will receive it and how that will, the scheduling poll will work. So here I'm going to add my other account. And here in this screen, what I can do, I can either use the scheduling assistant, as I said, but that will only give me certain times. But here I would like to use the scheduling poll and give the other person or the attendees the option to select which day works better for them. So here I'm going to click on scheduling poll. And as you can see here in this screen, I will select May the 3rd. And let's say I want to meet at 1 o'clock. I added one time. Now let's say I want to add another time. I will click on the May the 5th, and I will select, let's say, at 11 a.m. So I have 2 times selected. You can add as many times as you like, but we'll go with that 2 for now. So I'm meeting for an hour on one of those 2 days. I will click on next. And here I can decide whether that, these are the times, Wednesday, May the 3rd at 1, or Friday, May the 5th at 11. And I can decide on a location, of course, and the location can be one of the rooms as well. It can be a Teams meeting or not. And I can set some settings here. So I can decide whether the schedule when attendees reach consensus means when everyone agrees on a certain date, it will automatically create that event and it will go in and it will send out the invites to everyone. I can select whether I want to hold the selected times on my calendar. What that will do, it will hold the time slots for both days on my calendar until everyone decides which day they want to go with, to meet on. And then I can decide to be notified, and I can require the attendees to verify their identity. That means, of course, it cannot be just simply open for everyone. I can lock the poll for attendees. When I lock it, they cannot add, suggest a different time, or add more attendees. If I leave it open, it will allow the other attendees to suggest different times or to add even more attendees. So let me go ahead and create the poll here. And this is the screen that will show up. It is going to send out that. I will go ahead and send it. And as you can see on my calendar here, those 2 dates now are held in my calendar. So as you can see here, it's on hold at 11, and this one is hold at 1 p.m., which means those 2 dates are going to be held in my calendar until the other person decides which day they would like to meet with me. So let's look at the other side and how that will look like. So I'm going to switch to the other account. And I'm going to that email. And there's a meeting poll that I received here. And in this poll, I have an option to vote for that poll. So when I click on vote, I will be presented with this screen. It's a meeting. I am the organizer. I can add more attendees if I would like to. I can add optional attendees. I can propose another time, or I can select which day I would like to meet. So let's say I'm available on both days. I'm available on Friday, but actually I prefer Wednesday. So once I select that and I go ahead and vote, my voting has been submitted. What happens is in my email here, I received that my meeting, the consensus has been reached, and an invite has been sent to the attendees. And it is been blocked in my calendar now. The hold on Friday is gone. Now it is officially on Wednesday, and the other person, of course, received an invite for that meeting at that time. Once they accept it, it'll go into their calendar as well. So that is a really nice feature in Outlook. You can take advantage of. It can be depending on your settings. You can add multiple dates and send it out, and then you don't have to worry about it. It will all happen in the background, and it will go into your calendar. All invitees will get an invite, and it will go into their event, into their calendars as well. Okay, so so far that is pretty much regarding the calendars. So you can share your own calendar with others. You simply select the people and you select which permission level. You send out an invite. They will get an invite email. Once they add it to their calendar, they can see your calendar in their Outlook as well. Or you can create a calendar just for that purpose. You can create a blank calendar, give it whatever name you would like, select whichever color, and you can add it to any calendar groups, and then you can share that calendar with others. Or in the case of rooms and resources, you can send us a request for those, and we can create those rooms or room calendars for you. Once they are created, then you can simply add them into your calendar, and you can manage them yourself, depending on the restrictions and permissions you set. Whether you would like to have a delegate, you can have 1, 2, 3 people as delegates. They can cover for each other. Whoever receives the invite, they can review and accept it. And then, or you can set it up to auto accept depending on your restrictions are met. So let me move on to the calendar views, and let me move on to a couple of things in calendar that will give you a little bit of a easy viewing for your calendar. So I'm in my calendar here, and here, let me get up to. So if you have more than 2 events in a day, you will simply see the 3 dots here on that day. So then you have to go into that day, or if you click on those 3 dots, it'll expand what is called the agenda pane on the side. So you can expand it and collapse it actually at the bottom here. You can simply leave it expanded. So on whichever day you click, you will see all those events on the side. So you don't have to go into a day view to view all your events. And also, let's say I am working in my emails, and instead of me going back and forth between my calendar and my emails, one very good feature is My Day View. So in your Outlook on the top here, let me just bring it closer so you can see what I'm talking about. This is the My Day View. So if I click on that, there is my day view on the side here. So I'm in my emails and I can see my calendar for all the upcoming events right in the screen. So I don't have to switch back and forth between my calendar and my email. And right here, I can simply add tasks, I can schedule anything, or I can, of course, if you're using the to-do list and you're flagging emails, you can also view those right in this My Day view. So you can look at the flagged emails, you can look at My Day, you can look at tasks, or you can simply look at your calendar. That is a really good view to have always on your Outlook. So just open it. Once you click on it and it shows up, it'll stay there. Even if you sign out, you sign back in, you will still have it open. Now, for the to-do and the flagging emails, that will be might be a future session on that if you're interested. But I do flag emails, but once I flag them, then what? So to follow up on all your flagged emails, you can use the My Day view and go to your flagged emails. Then you can see all your flagged emails, and as you attend to them, you can just simply complete them right in your Outlook screen. Okay, so we looked at calendars. We looked at how you can schedule an event and add a room as a location to a room calendar. Let's see, sometimes you get emails back and forth. People have a discussion on something. Let's say you have an email, a long thread of emails, and you would like to create an event, a meeting. You would like to meet with your team, but you don't want to lose the email thread, all the information within that email. What you can do in Outlook, let me look up, I'm going to look up one of the just an email here. This is going on with multiple people here, and I have a long email thread here. Let's say I wanted to meet with everyone here and regarding this, and I want to create a meeting right within my email. So what you can do here, in your email, you have a reply all, and forward, and you have the ellipses for more action. If I click on that, and I have other reply options, I have an option to reply all by meeting. So you can find that under the ellipses here. You'll click on that. You will go to other reply actions, and you will have an option to reply all by meeting. If I click on that, I will be presented with this screen. And as you can see here, I am going to set up a meeting. All attendees are already added. I just need to select the time I would like to meet with everyone. And if I scroll down in the notes, I have the whole thread of the emails. So I have all the information within my meeting invite. I can simply select the date and time and send it out. Everyone will get an invite for that meeting with all the information contained within that event itself. That is a pretty nice feature in Outlook. So whenever you're working on emails back and forth, you can simply use this. And of course, in the screen, you can also take advantage of the scheduling assistant and the scheduling poll as well. So You can send out a poll, let people select which day, and in the event also keep all the information regarding that email thread that you have. So I'm just going to cancel this. I don't want to meet with everyone for that. With that, I think I've covered pretty much most of the calendar related issues. I am going to show you a little bit of how to manage that calendars in an installed version of Outlook. So let me just pull up in case I know some of you might have it, some of you may not, but just to let you know how it's going to look like, it's pretty much the same as the online version of Outlook, but you get a little bit more options here. So if I go to my calendars here, I can see my Sarnia, I will see my Sarnia group as soon as that comes up. So in one click, you can show all the calendars at once, or you can hide them all at once. And in here, for example, I can view when I'm looking at my calendar, I can look up, for example, if I'm looking at what days available for, let's say, the second week of May, I can simply select the second week of May in this calendar, and I can see only that week here. If I want to look up, let's say, 3 weeks in May, I can select, I'll highlight them, and right now I'm looking at those 3 weeks only. Or let's say I wanted to meet on specific days. So I'm looking at, let's say, May the 5th, I'm looking at May the 9th, and let's say May the 26th. I can select those 3 dates and I can look at my calendar or any calendar for that reason. If I can select the Sarnia rooms calendars for those specific 3 dates in one shot here in my calendar. So these are the things you can do with the installed version, but you can't do with the online. But you know, I know some of you, even though you have the installed version, you prefer the simple look and of the online version of Outlook. So I just wanted to mention that and show you just little things you can do here in the installed version of Outlook. We've covered pretty much calendar related things. And of course, if you have questions, we will try to answer them. But if we don't get to answer your questions, you can send them to us later. Claire, I just want to take just 5 more minutes and introduce a diocesan intranet, if you allow me.
Oh, perfect. And then we'll get to, there's a couple of questions, but do that and then we'll come back to the questions.
Okay. So just to let you know, there's what they call an intranet. An intranet is a computer network for sharing communication, information, collaboration within an organization. And the backbone for an intranet for the Diocese of London is the SharePoint. And you have already have an example of that, which is your family of parishes SharePoint site. So it is within your family of parishes. It's an intranet where you can share and collaborate on and communicate within your family of parishes. What we're working on now, we're working on a diocesan intranet, a site where it is shared amongst all staff, everyone across the Diocese of London, where we will have some information, documents, policies, and so on in one central location, and it is called the Diocesan Intranet. It will be officially announced in the coming few days. So please look for it in the parish briefings coming out soon. It'll be officially announced, but I just wanted to show you how it works. So from your office, whether you're in Outlook, your Word, your SharePoint, just go to SharePoint. Once you go to SharePoint, you will see sites that are available for you. And the site will be called Diocesan Intranet. If you don't see it, you can simply look it up. But of course, in the parish briefing, you will get instructions how you can open the site and add the site to your favorites. So this site is, as I said, it's a Diocesan Intranet site. We're still working on it. And it will host some of the things like the directories, for example, staff directories, VoIP directories, marriage forms, human resources documents, some policies, and whatever information that will be beneficial for everyone across the diocese. So this is something we're working on and it's coming soon. I just wanted to mention that to you. And with that, Claire, I will pass it back on to you.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about the intranet because we've had some conversations as well because right now we have a landing page for like LEM documents and stuff like that that is password protected, and I don't think it gets used as much as it should, but we look forward to it in pastoral services and being able to have a place for the documents that we sort of put out.
Yeah. And the nice
that
thing
will be easily accessible.
That's true. And the nice thing is this is only available for the within the Diocese of London. Only if you have a diocesan email address within the diocese, it's accessible for everyone.
Oh, great. There's a couple of questions, and I will invite anybody else who has questions to pop them in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. The first question is, we found out that one of our deacons could access our team calendar without adding him. Any ideas how this happened?
A team calendar. So when you create groups, it actually, or you create a team, it creates a group, it creates a calendar, it creates a SharePoint site, and he might be in a group within that team. So you don't need to invite, when you add a calendar in Teams, for example, it is for the group of people. So all members of that team or that group will have access to that team calendar.
So I mean, if they didn't actually, like, how can they figure out who can see that calendar? Is there a way to do that?
Well, is it a Teams calendar or is it just an Outlook calendar?
I'll let them respond.
Well, if it's an Outlook calendar, let me go back to my Outlook. So if it's an Outlook calendar, you can see the permissions on any calendar. Just simply click on that, the three dots next to the calendar, and you can check the sharing and permissions, and you can see everyone what type of permissions they have.
And if you wanted to remove them,
you can simply delete them. So if you are the owner of the calendar, I can delete them right there. I can simply delete whoever have access to my calendar. I can either change permissions or I can delete them. But sometimes if it's a group calendar, everyone within that group will receive, will have access to the calendar. So to remove them from the calendar, you need to remove them from the group. So you go to your contacts and you might have some groups there. Make sure that that group, keep your groups up to date when you're working with different groups.
Okay. So she's saying it's our team calendar on Outlook. We didn't invite him and his name doesn't appear on the group. So My guess is you may need to connect with them directly.
Yes,
Clarify
yes, yeah,
who's,
I will
who's
have
got
to look
access there.
into the permissions on that. Yes.
Okay, okay. In a regular calendar, not a room calendar, can you create your own locations or rooms?
Well, you can add, as I said, you can add blank calendars, but depending on permissions you give out, it'll be only viewable by the people you share the calendar. But if it's a room calendar, I would suggest that we create the room calendar, because if I create blank calendars within my Outlook, let's say I leave the diocese in a few years, all my calendars will be gone with my email account. So because they're attached to my email account, and if I leave and I'm the owner, no one else will be able to edit them or change permissions on those. So you're stuck with calendars that no one has permissions to.
That makes sense.
For room
That makes
calendars
sense.
or shared calendars, it would be better if we create them so that they're not attached to a specific email account. But if you're working on a specific project, let's say for a specific group of people, and you're the sole person that will be working with them, so you can create as many blank calendars, you can share them with different groups.
Okay, that answers the question. I do not see any more questions at this time, Ayman.
Okay.
So thank you. I know that anyone listening knows that they can certainly reach out to anybody in the IT department if you have specific questions or you need them to go through something that's very specific to you, which is, as we saw with some of the questions this morning or this afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they're, always willing to help you. And so I would encourage that. Just to wrap things up, again, the next workshop will be on DDMS. I don't have it. What's that?
I'm just gonna stop sharing.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Just on the importance and how to create clean documentation in DDMS. I'm saying that all wrong, but all know what I mean. So that will be May 24th, and you can register right now at dol.ca simple-solutions. All right, everybody, have a great afternoon, and hopefully we'll see you next month. Take care. God bless.
Thank you. Thanks, Claire.
Thanks, Simon.